The other day, I was driving to a funeral. Unfortunately, it happens. And somebody in the car was saying, this year, do we really have to mark Tisha B'Av? I feel like we've been a year of Tisha B'Av the whole year. Since October 7th, I really feel like every single day, it's not like it's an easy day. There's still many, many Jews that are held hostage. And every single day I say tefillah for them. Every single day I daven to Hashem for them. And it's not like we have it any day easy. Our enemies are always trying to attack us in a very aggressive way. So maybe this year Tisha B'Av, it's almost like you can't have a candle during daylight is irrelevant. What's a candle be worth? You have the sun shining. So if the whole year we've been going through so harsh, how does Tisha B'Av stand out? And I listened to him, I heard him, I didn't comment. And then I took a look into the Medrash on Eicha, the Medrash over there, and I think he has a strong point. The Medrash says, the following. Rabbi Abohu Pasach. Rabbi Abo opened up with the words. I'm sorry, that's not word. Rabbi Nechemia Omer, Rabbi Nechemia says, Ein l'shoyin eicha. The word eicha, what is the meaning of this word? Ela kina. It's a whale. It's a whale. That's what the word eicha. It's a kina. It's a whale. And where does he bring proof to the meaning of the word eicha that it's a whale? Ha hada moda'at amris. This is what it said. Vayikra el Hashem Elokim el ha'adam. God called to man. Vayarmer la ayeka. And he said to him, we usually translate as ayeka, where are you? Says Rab Nechemia, ayeka means oy lecha, woe to you. Woe to you. So Rab Nechemia comes and says the word eicha is a whale. And he brings proof that what happened, Adam HaRishon sinned in the Garden of Eden by eating from the tree of knowledge. And then when Hashem turns to him, what was the first thing Hashem told him? Not where are you, but woe to you, you're in big trouble. You're like really messed up over here. It's a very big problem over here. Oy lecha, you're in a bad space. So who didn't say oy this whole year? Oy, and oy again, and oy again, and oy again, and oy again. From Shmini Atzeres, there's a lot of oys. Now, in the same time, we are also living in unbelievable times where we saw many, many different miracles, and we're not minimizing, but at the moment, this was the person's question. This is the person's question. And I think the Medrash seems to indicate that that's what Eicha is. The whole Tisha B'Av is around Eicha. We say Eicha in the evening, we say Eicha in the morning. And then, if you look further in the Medrash continues to say that Rabbi Vo says, what happened with Adam HaRishon? What was the Oy? What was the Oy with Adam HaRishon? Hashem put him in Gan Eden. V'tzivisiv. I commanded him what to do. V'avar al tzivi. And he went against my commandment. V'danti oisei b'gerushin. And therefore God says I had to send him away. I sent him out of Gan Eden. V'kananti olav. And I wailed on him. Olav eicha. I said eicha on the fact that Adam Rishon has failed, and now we have to be sent out. Afbanov, so to my children, I brought them into Eretz Yisrael, and I brought them to the beautiful land of Eretz Yisrael, and I commanded them the mitzvahs that I told them, and they went against my commandments. And he brings from the pasuk of Daniya v'chol Yisrael avur al as Torah. We have transgressed the Torah. Hashem had to send us out of Eretz Yisrael. V'kananti lehem eicha yasher v'dad. And I cried on them, eicha yasher v'dad, how they sit alone. So this was the person's question, and the Medrash seems to indicate that this is the meaning of eicha. And so what is Tisha B'Av about? So luckily they gave me the 1 o'clock slot. The 1 o'clock slot, we could sit comfortably. The 1 o'clock slot means you start saying Nachem. Nachem is what? Hashem comforts us. Why do we say Nachem after Chatzos? Because Moilid Mashiach Shal Yisrael was born to the Jewish people. Mashiach was born after Chatzos and Tisha B'Av. That's what the Medrash tells us. So what it means is that we got to shift our perspective now. We got to move away from an Eicha that seems to say Oy, Oy, Oy. We have to move to an Eicha that can mean something else. What is the Eicha that can mean something else? And perhaps this is what, at least at this moment, the focus of Tisha B'Av hopefully will be for each of us. And that is that if you look into the teachings of Chassidus as expounded upon the ideas of Kabbalah, the word Eicha is really a breakup of three steps. It's Aleph, there's an Aleph, there's a Yud, and then there's the word Chaf Hei Ko. Aleph, Yud, Ko. That's what Ayeka is. Eicha is. Aleph, Yud, Chaf Hei. Says Chassidus, Aleph is Alufoi Shel Olam, is a level of godliness that was never experienced yet. That's Aleph. Yud is the 10 levels of Seder Hishtalshlos. The way God expresses himself in reality is the Yud. And what is the Chaf Hei? The Chaf Hei is a level of Malchus, which all of reality, especially the physical reality, is a manifestation of God's expression as is in Malchus. In other words, so those were the words of Kabbalah, but let's try to bring this to what this can mean to us, each and every one of us, in a real way. That Eicha, more than the Oy, Eicha is about bringing Hashem's presence to our reality in a way that was never experienced before. Eicha is a charge. Eicha is a mission. Eicha is telling us Adam HaRishon wasn't the best. He was in Gan Eden. He had everything. That wasn't the best. Even afterwards, where we seem to rectify all that Adam HaRishon did, meaning is that there was, like the Medrash tells us, there were 7 generations. First the sin of Adam, then the sin of Cain, then the sin of Shes and Enosh. There were 7 generations of sins, and Hashem was totally removed from reality. Then came Avraham Avinu and brought down God's presence in the world. Then came Yitzchak, brought down God's presence in the world. Then came Yaakov till Moshe Rabbeinu. What did Moshe Rabbeinu do? Vayeyirid Hashem el Har Sinai. Moshe Rabbeinu brought the presence of Hashem to the world. Was never experienced before that way. The whole world, we spoke to Hashem, panim, face to face. We built a Mishkan, a place where Hashem's presence was the entire time. We built a Beis HaMikdash, a first Beis HaMikdash, a second Beis HaMikdash. All that wasn't the ultimate, wasn't what we're trying to accomplish. We want to make Eicha. We want to bring the ultimate level to the physical reality, which obviously will be with the coming of Mashiach. That's when we experience the everlasting home from Hashem in a way that was never experienced before. Not even in Gan Eden before the sin of the tree of knowledge. So that's what is in the word of Eicha. Eicha tells me, what is this all about? It's about bringing a reality to the world, a state of godliness that we have not experienced yet. It's not about the past. It's not about, we're missing the Beis HaMikdash. It's about bringing a new sense of God, not a new sense, that all our senses would be true to its creator in its full sense, in the full way, in its full being. That is what Eicha is. That's what the word Eicha is. And you ask yourself the question, that sounds amazing. That sounds totally transformative. That sounds something out of this world. But how do I relate to it? How do I relate to this? How could seemingly where Adam failed, I stand up and all of a sudden be the victor and make it all happen? We're talking about something that David HaMelech didn't do, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't do, all the generations didn't do it. And comes up, I'm going to read Eicha, and this is what the reality is going to be like. it's maybe, it might sound, but it seems like a real distance from this reality to us. How could I relate to this? So I think, just like the Medrash took lesson from the story of Adam Harishon to understand what the word Eicha means, which means Oy lecha, woe to you, I think we could take lesson from the story of Adam and the word Ayeka, and maybe perhaps make this idea of Eicha closer to us. And what do I mean? There's a famous story when the Alter Rebbe was incarcerated by the Tsar Russia, right? And at that time, they said very, very terrible things about the Alter Rebbe, that he's planning a rebellion, he's going against the government, and he's an enemy to the Tsar. And quickly, after a few days, they realized that all these accusations weren't as they were presented to the government, and was learned a great admiration for the Alter Rebbe, a great admiration. People realized this was a godly man, someone that's really, really special. So much so that the Tsar himself came to visit the Alter Rebbe in jail. He dressed up like a simple, like a regular, guard of the jail. He dressed up, and he comes in. Alter Rebbe stands and says, "My honor, the king." And he says, "What are you making a joke over here? I should kill you. I'm a regular soldier, and you're calling me the king?" The Alter Rebbe said, it says, "Malchus de Ara ke'ein Malchus de Rakia," the kingship down here, as a little bit of the kingship of Hashem. When you came in, I felt the presence of Hashem, so I know you're the king. So he blew his cover. That was one story. But the Alter Rebbe, that was the Alter Rebbe J. At that time, there was the name of the Alter Rebbe got so by everybody that anyone that was of any deep meaning wanted to visit the Alter Rebbe. Who was one of those people? The Minister of Education. The Minister of Education in Russia, who was obviously a very big and prestigious job, wanted to come visit the Alter Rebbe. He comes visit the Alter Rebbe, and he didn't, not in disguise, he was presented who he was. And he says he has a question for the Alter Rebbe. Could he ask him a question? So he said, of course. So he says he learns Genesis. He learns Genesis. He studies the Bible. That's what studies the Torah. And he comes in the first chapters, and he sees that Adam sins, and then God calls and says, "Ayeka, where are you?" He says, "Is this a joke over here? God doesn't know where Adam is. The creator of heaven and earth is asking where Adam is. Of course Hashem knows where Adam is. Why do you have to ask him, where are you?" So the Alter Rebbe told him what it says in Rashi, the foremost commentator on Chumash, and says didn't want to overwhelm him. If God's going to come speak to you after you did something so bad, you're going to get overwhelmed. He wanted to start the conversation and not overwhelm him. So the minister said, "I also know that interpretation. I know Rashi. In other words, not only am I a learner of the Bible, I study the commentaries as well. I want to hear what the Alter Rebbe has to say." And the Alter Rebbe turned to him and said to him, "Okay, but tell me, do you believe in the eternity of the Torah?" It means that some people, you might study it, you might learn it, but you believe it happened, but it's not relevant necessarily to the present. Do you believe that it's eternal? So he said, yes. So then he said, "I'll tell you what it means." And he turned to him, he says, Ayeka, God turning to Adam and saying Ayeka, is not to Adam of the past, but the Adam of the present. And that is you. And the Rebbe says, a person, and he tells him his age, 56 years old. God is asking you, Ayeka, where are you in your life? What have you accomplished? What are you doing? What is going on in your everyday goings? Are you living to your potential? And the man was obviously blown away. The interpretation, the Alter Rebbe knew his exact age and the way he presented it to him, and he was thankful. And that story was shared with us. And I believe if we could take a lesson from this story and learn to what Eicha means. When we look at the word Eicha, we should see the word Ayeka. Ayeka we should see. Not the Ayeka of Oy lecha, woe to us, how bad it is. We should see the Ayeka of what am I doing this year different than last year? How am I behaving in a way that I'm preparing myself for the Nachem, the coming of Mashiach? How am I living a more Mashiach Jew? I come Tisha B'Av, and I mourn the Beis Hamikdash, but I know that it's not about saying oy about the past, but creating a real future for the world, for Am Yisrael, bringing Hashem's presence in a way that was never experienced before. Ayeka, where am I in that picture? Where am I in that conversation? How am I part of that conversation? How am I part of that reality? That's the question. That's what we see when we see the word Ayeka. That's what we look at. That's what we understand when we see the word Ayeka. So we see the word Ayeka. We recognize it's not about the oy, but it's about how am I going to make the joy. I'm going to take the oy and make it into a joy. I'm going to add I'm going to take the oy that every yid has, and I'm going to take the J from Jewish and make it joy from oy to joy. That's what I'm going to do. That's how I'm going to make the difference. I'm going to take all my oy's and make them into joy. And how is that going to be in a practical way? How could I bring this practical? So Rabbi Raskin just erased my whole, I had a whole modern Beis Hamikdash theory and everything. And he says we don't believe in modernity, so I'll have to change my whole next part of the conversation to make it more fitting, because otherwise he might throw me out. So I got to behave over here. So one of the things that after Chatzos, besides that we can sit in a chair and be a little bit more comfortable. I mean, we're still fasting, and it's not an easy day, and not making it for everyone that came and is in here personally, be able to be with us studying together. It takes a certain self-sacrifice. Yasher koach. But one of the things is that the Rebbe encouraged from the 17th, Shiva Asa, the 17th of Tammuz, the Rebbe encouraged to learn the laws of the Beis Hamikdash. Hilchos based the laws of the Beis Hamikdash, the ideas of the third Beis Hamikdash, the way it's described in Yecheskel, and it's based on the Medrash, where the Medrash says that Hashem told Yecheskel, "Tell my children about the nevuah of the Beis Hamikdash," and Yecheskel said, like they just experienced destruction. I'm going to start telling about the next Beis Hamikdash. It's like salt in an open wound. That's not fear. The Jews just experienced destruction. I'm going to tell them, okay, there's another Beis Hamikdash. Let's start learning about that. Hashem said just the opposite. Because my Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, my holy temple is destroyed, so it should stay in ruins. They should learn it, and when they learn about it and they study it, that's building my Beis Hamikdash. Based on that medrash, the Rebbe encouraged that everyone should learn the laws of the Beis Hamikdash. And so the law is that the Rebbe wrote that after midday, you could also start learning the ideas of Beis Hamikdash. In other words, on Tisha B'Av, we refrain from studying Torah because Torah adds joy. We only learn about topics that are related to destruction. The Rebbe said that from after midday, you could start studying already also the ideas of the Beis Hamikdash. So with this, I want to focus a little bit on taking this idea we're saying Ayeka, understanding our call and our opportunity to connect it to the Beis Hamikdash and see how can we make the Beis Hamikdash something more real in our life. How can we be more relatable to the Beis Hamikdash? So we know the Rambam, Maimonides, when describing the mitzvah of the Beis Hamikdash, he says a place shebo makrivim bahem karbanos, a place. What's the reason to build a Beis Hamikdash? So we should have the biggest synagogue in town. So we should have the best artwork. We should have the best architectural work. What's the reason Beis Hamikdash? Says the Rambam, a place to bring sacrifices. That's the reason for the Beis Hamikdash. It's a conversation between, we have the Rambam, Maimonides on one hand, Nachmanides on the other hand. Nachmanides' opinion is more of the presence of God, but the Rambam describes it as a place to bring karbanos. And you find something very, very interesting in the Medrash. The Medrash tells us something very, very interesting. Firstly, the Medrash tells us that when Avram Avinu, God promised Avram to enter the land of Eretz Yisrael, his children will enter the land of Israel. Avram said, Bameh, in what do I know that they're going to merit this? Like you could think that Avram's saying, give me a proof, make me a miracle, show it to me, it's going to happen. That's not what Avram asked. Avram wanted to know, you're promising me the Jews are going to be in the Beis Hamikdash, they're going to go to Eretz Yisrael, and they're going to be all in the land. How do I know that for sure this is going to happen? Like, what is in it for you, let's say, in other words? What is in it for you that I know for sure is going to happen? And Hashem said, because your children are going to bring to me karbanos, sacrifices. They're going to merit it by the mitzvah of bringing sacrifices. That's what he says. So again, we see the Rambam says the main thing of the Beis Hamikdash is sacrifices. Hashem tells Avraham Avinu with what merit you're going to get it, the merit of the sacrifices. We find something very interesting. The Medrash says like this. This is actually in the Hagdama, in the opening to Ein Yaakov. Ein Yaakov was a compiler. He compiled all the Agadic parts of the Talmud. So in the preface to the Ein Yaakov, this Sefer says the following. Ben Zoma Omer. Ben Zoma says the following. What is the most important pasuk in the entire Torah? What is the most important pasuk in Torah? Someone asks you, tell me the most important pasuk in the entirety of Torah. What pasuk are you going to tell them? So Ben Zoma says, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. If you got to pick a pasuk, what's the most important? Shema, that's what Ben Zoma says. Oneness of Hashem, belief in Hashem, the oneness of Hashem. Okay, Ben Nanis says, that's very special, very important, but I think you're missing a very big component. I think something that's even more inclusive is the pasuk of V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your fellow as yourself. That is that includes the entire Torah. In loving Hashem, actually Chassidus says, what's greater, loving Hashem or loving your fellow Jew? So the Chassidus says, when you love what your friend loves, that's the ultimate love. Hashem loves every Jew. So when you love every Jew, you're not only loving it, you're loving what Hashem loves. But you hear where Ben Anis goes a step deeper. Comes Ben Pazi, and Ben Pazi says, as a keves echod tase ba'boker, as a keves hasheni tase bein arbayim. Not Shema Yisrael, not V'ahavta Hashem V'ahavta L'reacha Kamocha. The pasuk is, in the morning you bring me the sacrifice of the keves, in the afternoon you bring me the sacrifice of the keves. And you say, wow, like we just got belief in Hashem. We just got the belief in the oneness of Hashem. We just got love your fellow. Those we put away on the side. What is the most important pasuk in Torah? Bring a sacrifice in the morning, bring a sacrifice in the evening. And you try to say, and says the Medrash continues, Amar Ploini al Raglav, there was one great rabbi who said, the halacha is like Ben Pazi. Not like Ben Zoma who says Shema. Not like Ben Nanus who says V'ahavta. The halacha is like Ben Pazi. That's the halacha. So in other words, as great as the first two psukim were, which we all could relate to, no, this is the most. This is the most. And the Medrash brings a proof to this. So what is it? What is it in this pasuk that is so powerful? And I believe the answer is in one word. It's called tamid. Tamid means constantly. Tamid means constantly. And you ask yourself the question. We're limited to 5 minutes, so we'll cut it short at this point. How could you call bringing a sacrifice in the morning and bringing a sacrifice in the afternoon constant? It's not constant. It's morning. It's afternoon. It's not the whole day. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. You could say theoretically the whole day. I believe in God the whole day. Love your fellow. I love everyone the whole day. But I bring a sacrifice only in the morning, only in the afternoon. What means the whole day? And the answer is when you do something consistently that starts your day and ends your day, your whole day gets enveloped, gets elevated by that. And I'm gonna tap into what my father a few minutes ago said. He said, "How does a Jew start his day? How does a Jew start his day? Moda ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayim." You know why this is the most powerful prayer? Because it puts your day in course. It puts your day. My day is a day of thanks to Hashem, belief in Hashem, emunah b'Hashem. That's every day I start my day that way. So the morning, I start my day with that. And the evening, b'yodcha afkid ruchi, I give my soul to God in the evening. But the most important thing is, a Jew has to have his carbon tamid in the morning and his carbon tamid in the afternoon. We know that today we don't have the carbonal, we don't have sacrifices, right? We don't bring sacrifices. Even there's actually some communities that don't want to do kaparas. They don't want to do, because they want to say, don't get confused with kaparas as a sacrifice. There are certain Jewish communities that don't do that because of the confusion, because there is no sacrifices today. So what is it? What is the modern sacrifice? What is the modern carbon? So we know prayer takes the place of carbonos, davening. But the point is of a carbon means what brings me closer to God in the morning, what brings me closer to God in the evening. We have to have our carbon tamid in the morning and our carbon tamid in the evening. We have to have what anchors me in my relation to Hashem in the morning and relationship to Hashem in the evening. That's my consistent Beis Hamikdash. That's my everyday Beis Hamikdash, that I am consistent. I don't let a day pass without starting my day with this davening, praying, whatever and I don't let a day end without making sure I do this. That's the carbon tamid. That's what Hashem told Avraham Avinu. With what are the Jews are going to merit the Beis Hamikdash to go to Eretz Yisrael? Because they're going to bring karbanos. It's so interesting. One of the things that we mourn during the 3-week period is the stopping of the carbon tamid. Shivas Asar b'Tammuz, the 17th of Tammuz, the carbon tamid stopped being brought. And there's a Gemara that says that the day that the carbon tamid stopped being brought in the times of the Chashmonaim, the later generation of the Chashmonaim, that's a day that the Beis Hamikdash was overtaken. The carbon tamid protected the Beis Hamikdash. So too in our lives, each and every one of us. Our carbon tamid, that's what keeps us anchored and keeps our day in focus in our relationship with Hashem. Keeps our day focused in me wanting to build the Beis Hamikdash. Me making the Ayeka, the Aleph, bringing Hashem's presence, Alufa Shel Olam, the ultimate level of godliness, down to the real physical reality in a way that was never experienced before. So in conclusion, although this year is a very tough year, and there are still hostages that are held, and our enemies have not given up to try to hurt us and threaten us and try to eradicate us. Every day there are new threats. It's today, it's tomorrow. Our enemies are not giving up. We are not giving up either. We are not giving up saying oi, but more important, we are not giving up saying joy. Because what is the 2 times that in the Code of Jewish Law brings on the word tamid? It's Shevisi Hashem lenegdi samid. That's the first words in the Shulchan Aruch. Shevisi Hashem lenegdi samid. God's presence should be always present by me, tamid. And tov leiv mishta tamid. Tov leiv, a good heart. Mishta tamid is always going to be festive and happy tamid. A Jew has to have the belief in God and the joy in serving Hashem. And when we have the belief in God and this joy in serving Hashem, we are living a reality that is a Mashiach reality. We are living a third Beis Hamikdash reality. Let's hope and pray that we take the oy of Tisha B'Av, we turn into the joy and joy of God, and Hashem says, enough of the oyes, and we're up to the joys.
If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have any question, please write it in the comments.